The Pondora application is bringing together all of the different features and abilities that we've come to know and love within Cardano, all within one single unified platform. As a part of today's interview, I'm sitting down with Sean, aka Blackbird, to highlight all of their latest developments, all of their latest features, when we can expect for them to go on the mainnet, and the launch of the Pond token. Without any further ado, let's jump straight into today's video. And as always, if you enjoy content like this, make sure to smash that thumbs up. If it's your first time stopping by and you want more content just like this, consider subscribing. And last but not least, if you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. That said, enjoy the rest of today's video. What's up, Beta Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. My name's Fareed. As a part of today's video, we're talking about a all-in-one platform, which is coming to Cardano, and it's actually called Pondora. Now, what's crazy is that this team has been building here for quite a bit. Today, I'll be joined by Sean, their founder, to discuss everything that we can expect with their upcoming mainnet release, which should be taking place early this November. Without any further ado, let me bring up today's guest, Sean. Welcome up. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
The pleasure's mine. I'm excited to jump into Pondora. Before we do, though, let's maybe just hear a little bit about you and sort of what's brought you into this space. If I'm not mistaken, you guys and the Pondora team has been building here for quite a bit of time.
Yes, so I actually started out in Cardano almost 4 years ago. Mainly got into it for the tech. Initially, I led a small dev team working with various projects. So we got into building around NFT or Dapp-related features. Lending Pond was actually one of the first major dApps that we've worked with. And that's where kind of the beginnings of Pondora started, where we identified, what's lacking in the DeFi space and what could be built, what kind of improvements we could make. So yeah, that's when everything started. It would be about 3 years in March since the concept of the tech behind Pondora actually kicked off. So that's a fun fact.
Yeah, no, nice and really good to know. I know I definitely covered Lending Pond, right, when this first came out. And again, I'm talking about like super early when I was first starting off as a creator. So I know you guys have been here building for quite a bit of time. Now let's talk about Pondora specifically. For anybody who isn't aware, number one, how can they get access to it? And then let's jump into what features are available, because again, this is now sort of a one-stop shop platform doing more than just lending and borrowing.
Exactly, yes. So the idea behind Pondora started off as a way to interact with assets on the blockchain in a more efficient way. We started with just looking at NFT marketplaces and asking what are the common day-to-day struggles, what are the inefficiencies that we could improve upon. So things like being able to update your listings, your prices. Back in the day, you had to do it one at a time. And not only are you paying transaction fees each time, but it's time consuming. So we approached kind of the problem solving from that angle and designed this protocol that allowed you to manage your assets and the underlying intents, like selling it for a certain price, completely independently. And that idea just kind of sparked the ability to do extra things. So that could be applied to DEXs, could be applied to lending protocols. And today, Pondora is kind of the culmination of a good few years of just working on top of that concept. So in a nutshell, it's a new way to interact with dApps, whereby you don't need to be concerned with moving your assets around. You can rather just manage your intentions. So do you want to lend? Do you want to sell? Do you want to supply liquidity to a DEX? Those are the kind of things that we've enabled with this new way.
Yeah, very nice summary there. Just taking a look at the website, we've got the mentions here, right, of a smart account, liquid assets, taking advantage of the UTXO model here, obviously building here on Cardano, automation, one platform, and the fact that this is built for decentralization. Maybe just generally speaking, in terms of timelines, I know you guys are still actively building, but there's been a tease of a mainnet launch. When can we expect the mainnet, and maybe why this particular timeline?
So Mainnet is a bit unclear right now. We've been building for so long, and we've actually been able to launch Mainnet previously before the Chang hard fork, but we decided to wait simply because launching something, especially something with this scale of features, to launch it so close to a hard fork is kind of just asking for trouble. There'll be added maintenance, anything that needs to be changed. So we waited until after the hard fork, and obviously the hard fork brought about some of our planned features on the roadmap, and we decided to take that time to then implement that, while waiting. And now, once again, there's potentially a hard fork coming up quite soon. So we might push it back once again just to make sure that there's no, when we actually do pull the trigger and launch, it's a smooth process for everyone. There's no downtime required, and people get to try out the features without interruption. So Mainnet, there isn't really a set date yet. But from the team's perspective, it's as soon as possible. As soon as we are happy with the stability, as soon as the testnet feedback has, been all positive and no bugs are identified, that's when we'll decide to actually pull the trigger. But right now we are on testnet. We're getting overwhelmingly positive feedback. And yeah, everyone who uses kind of like the bulk listing or the bulk updates for the first time experiences that mind-blowing moment when, like, how is this even possible? So that's been awesome to see.
Got it. Now, you've just mentioned testnet. I'll leave the link to it down below. But for anybody who just isn't aware, what's actually capable of being done right now on the testnet platform?
So we started with the marketplace, just because the marketplace is, as far as features go, it's the most basic implementation you get for a kind of a Dapp. And so that's a good opportunity to evaluate the UX, make sure that everything's intuitive. If there's any feedback on, something that doesn't make sense, any steps that are more difficult than they should be, it gives us that opportunity to refine it before we then enable the next feature and move on from there. So right now, the only thing that's active on the testnet is the marketplace, and people can deposit assets into their smart account, and then list it, update it, remove those listings in one transaction. That's kind of the very first showcase of being able to manage your intents with a single transaction and paying negligible fees is kind of the first showcase of what the tech can do.
Got it. Now, I want to pull this up here because there's, I think, 2 phases you guys are currently working through. And I want to just sort of reiterate again what's been built and what we can expect. So taking a look here, we've got phase number 1 with the smart pond, or excuse me, with the pond, which is a smart account. And then, as you just mentioned, the NFT marketplace, which is available on the testnet. And then as a part of phase 2, we've got lending, a decentralized exchange, gaming, LilyPad, and zero knowledge upgrades. I think it'd be really helpful if you could just maybe walk us through, all these different bullet points here. Again, maybe sort of kicking off with the pond and what an actual smart account is.
Awesome. So yeah, to start with, the smart account is basically just a smart contract that you can use in place of your regular wallet. So currently, dApps you interact with, you've got your wallet extension, and anytime you want to perform an operation on that Dapp, you sign with your wallet, and assets move between your wallet and the Dapp back and forth. What the smart account called the pond does, it allows you to deposit your assets into the smart contract. And then instead of moving back and forth between your wallet and the Dapp, various Dapp features allow you to move your assets between the pond to other ponds. So it's kind of like your own personal liquid asset storage, which is why the pond is such a good name for it. And all the features that are now possible on these new marketplaces, lending platforms that we're integrating are all thanks to the smart account. That's where the core of what makes it work. In terms of the phase 2 features, those are just modules that we can add to the pond. So a cool aspect of the pond is that we can add new features, new capabilities without changing the underlying code of the smart account, because it's been built in a very modular fashion. So unlike your typical conventional Dapp, where let's say you want to add new features or migrate to the next version, there's usually a phase where users have to withdraw their assets and then deposit it in the new Dapp. With the pond, that process is streamlined because the underlying smart account never changes, and all you have to do is opt into these new features with a single transaction. So it becomes a very elegant way to not only build new features, but then to onboard users to those new features. And so those phase 2 items are basically modules we've already built. They either under audit or they under testing, and we're doing some minor improvements, but they're all pretty much ready to go when we feel comfortable, that it's ready to launch.
Now, I think generally speaking, people understand lending and borrowing. Again, you guys sort of came to market early with Lending Pond. The decentralized exchange, again, needs no explanation. Gaming in the lily pad, I think, would be really interesting, maybe dive a little bit deeper into. So again, for anybody who just isn't aware, what do those two modules offer to the community?
Awesome. Yeah. So the gaming part is probably the most fun aspect of the platform. While the others are very DeFi orientated, the gaming is kind of a fusion between a Dapp and a Web3 game. So it's something that's built into the same interface as the lending and the marketplace and the DEX, but it allows you to use your assets, your NFTs, to play kind of peer-to-peer combat turn-based games. And we've launched our own NFT collection called Money Frogs. These are going to be the first NFTs to be used in these games. And it basically allows you to use your assets that would otherwise just be sitting there listed for sale in a fun, interactive way that it also allows you to win some prizes. So it's just another feature we thought would be a cool addition to the platform. And so our Money Frogs NFT collection is kind of the core of that feature. The lily pad is in our partnership with NMaker, and that introduces a new way to mint NFT collections. Currently, when you mint an NFT collection right now, there's usually a centralized service that facilitates, especially for a very popular launch. You send in your funds and then you get allocated those NFTs randomly. The lily pad will integrate directly with our smart account and allow you to make pre-purchases of NFTs. So you no longer have to wait for the time that the drop is happening, and you no longer have to stay awake if it's not in the time zone that suits you. You can just make a mint offer using funds from your smart account, and when those NFTs actually get minted, it gets distributed in an open source, transparent manner. So the advantage to the lily pad is not only is it transparent, but you can verify that distribution is fair. Pretty similar to how DEXs do fair token launches, but this is for NFTs.
Got it. Now, you've mentioned a keyword there, which was security. Let's maybe dive into audits, right? So if I'm not mistaken, you guys have already gotten an audit completed by Anastasia Labs. And I believe there's also been an audit that's taken place for the NFT marketplace. Can you break down what the results were and what the plans are moving forward, if there's any additional scheduled audits, and what you guys are doing from a security perspective to make sure that the pond, right, is safe and secure for users that are planning to jump on the platform?
Of course, yeah. So from an audit perspective, we have completed version 1 audits for both the pond and the NFT marketplace. So that allows us to at least launch with something. But the way our platform works is that auditing and development is an ongoing process. So we currently have several audits in process right now, and that's not something we foresee ever stopping, because as we add new modules, the dev and the audit process kind of have to keep in sync with each other. So what you can expect is that we'll just continuously be auditing various versions of modules, and we'll never release something as a module until that audit is completed. Security is very important. So one of the things that we want to do is, especially for the real critical modules, to have at least 2 audits for each of them. So yeah, that's an ongoing process. In terms of things like the game, I think that's the only thing that may launch without an official audit. And that's purely because the interactions of the gaming feature is a very simple, there's no high stakes funds when you're playing the games. It's more just a fun interaction between one NFT holder and another NFT holder. So that's something that's also changing rapidly to balance the game. And I think that's the only aspect that might not have as a thorough audit, but everything will be open source. So, that's a very important factor in making sure that everything's transparent and everyone can evaluate the risks for themselves.
Got it. Now let's maybe shift gears and talk a little bit more about Dora and the actual Pond token. Can you maybe break down Dora first, and then we'll jump into the utility token for the Pondora platform?
Sure. So Dora is our solution to making sure that all of these features we're building operates in a decentralized and a fair manner. So especially with things like the DEX, there are factors like front running and making sure that there's no censoring happening on certain transactions. So Dora allows any holder of the Pond token to operate the back end of the network themselves. Very similar to, you could think of it as similar to a batcher, but it operates in a very different way where a lot of the downsides of batching are negated, whereas a lot of the pros of batching, like being able to perform transactions on your behalf, those benefits are still there. So it's very much a hybrid platform in that sense. But the bottom line is that Dora gives Pond holders the ability to run the platform themselves with no dependence on the team. And the purpose of the Pond token, among a few other pieces of utility, is to secure that network and to limit the number of participants of that network so that the incentive for running those nodes remain high. And that's the gist of it. Another cool feature that Dora makes possible is arbitrage. Right now, there are a lot of arbitrage opportunities on Cardano, but the average user cannot take advantage of that. And with our network that we've built with Dora, both auto routing and arbitrage are now possible. So holders of the Pond token and users of the platform can both benefit from arbitrage and earn those fees from executing those trades. So it's a very different way to run a Dapp compared to how Dapps currently work on Cardano. And I'm very excited to see it in action and how people end up using it and what the narrative around that becomes, because it's quite exciting to see a Dapp that can actually operate. If the team disappears, the Dapp will continue to function because everything's open source and the nodes are open source and anyone can effectively run it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the perfect definition of decentralization, right? Allowing, well, obviously building the platform, but then allowing for anybody to operate it or to support the network in the event that the core contributors or the initial founders aren't there in the future. So no, I think you guys are at least barking up the right tree or walking down the right path there. In terms of timelines, when we're talking about tokens, there's typically TGEs, token sales, public sales. Are there any plans for things of that nature for the Pondora platform?
So yes, we've actually just announced the date. It is the 8th of November that the token sale will be happening, and we'll be launching it via MinSwap's new IDO method. So that's quite an exciting thing to look out for. We'll be the first team to be making use of that.
That said, I'll leave the links to everything down below for the viewers. That way they're able to get in touch and that they can participate and have the appropriate information as they need. Let's maybe sort of focus now, on what comes next. So we've talked about lending, borrowing, swaps, the DEX, DeFi, staking, NFTs, and even gaming. What are the plans after you guys have been able to knock out phase 1 and phase 2 on the roadmap?
So a big portion of what the plans are for not only our team and the Pondora DAO is that there'll actually be grants given to the community to build on top of Pondora. Because our vision for the platform is not just to be an all-in-one DApp for ourselves and our own community, but the concept of Pondora modules allows any team that might want to extend it, build their own feature. They should be able to do so, and we'll be looking at giving out grants to help them with that development. The idea behind Pondora is that because you can use the same assets across multiple protocols at the same time, it's a means of sharing liquidity between dApps throughout the ecosystem. So it creates a far more capital efficient environment, and it allows it kind of prevents the current the current common competition between different dexes or different lending platforms or different marketplaces, where those dApps can focus on providing something unique on the UI or on the off chain, and on the back end they can make use of something like Pondora to share the liquidity, share the users, and overall it's a net positive for the ecosystem. So yes, one thing we really want to do long term is to encourage, whether it be our current implementation or something similar, whereby the community all jumps on this as a standard for how Dapp should operate. Because not only does it create a much better user experience, but from an ecosystem perspective, it's just a net positive.
Got it. And I may have missed this earlier in conversation, but do you guys plan on open sourcing all of the smart contracts, or basically just all of the underlying infrastructure and code that's putting together Pondora?
Definitely. So yeah, we believe that if it's not open source, it's not a Dapp. You have to be able to see the code in order to use it, in order to trust it. So our planning is to open source everything as soon as a module, as soon as everything is audited, it will be released open source, especially for other devs to contribute and build on top of it. So
Perfect.
yeah,
No, I think you guys are definitely, again, walking down the right path there. We need more builders with that same exact mindset. Now, Sean, again, we've been going here for about 25 minutes, breaking down a lot of the ins and outs here, the testnet, et cetera. Again, links will be left down below for the viewers that want to contribute and maybe just test out the platform. As we get ready to wrap up, what are some of your closing thoughts or some of the biggest takeaways that you want to make sure to sort of reiterate here with the community?
I think the main thing is just to, if you haven't tried it out yet, try to get in on the testnet, try to give it a spin. We're always looking for feedback. I love seeing the reactions of people using it for the first time. So yeah, please do join us on Discord, try to get access to the testnet and try to start diving in and playing around. And then secondly, to look out for our token sale happening on the 8th. That will be a big event, and we hope to get support from the community for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Sean, aka Blackbird, joining me here to break down everything that Pondora is bringing to the Cardano ecosystem. If you guys want to join their community, contribute, test out the testnet, participate in the token sale, links down below to their Twitter as well as their Discord. You can jump in there and ask questions. If you guys have any questions that you guys want to just maybe direct at Sean right now, leave those down below. But that'll do it here for today's interview. Again, bringing you guys some of the biggest dApps that are building right now in the ecosystem. This is definitely one that I'm looking forward to, just because you guys, again, are sort of taking an aggregator approach, right? Which I know that we've seen working plentiful or with other plenty projects. And so my thing is you guys aren't just aggregating within the DEX space. You guys aren't just aggregating within the DePIN space. You guys are aggregating the different types of use cases and features that have been built so far on Cardano. Again, lending and borrowing, the DEX, the minting, the gaming, all of that will be all in one. So I'm excited to see, how you guys are going to fare moving forward. I think you guys have done a great job so far. Again, I'm a super big supporter of Lending Pond, and just seeing the evolution of that has me super excited about this. So I'll definitely be making sure to check it out, and I'll provide feedback here to my community, but want to say thank you for jumping on here and highlighting what you guys have been building over the course of the last 3 years. For you, the viewer watching at home, if you appreciate content like this, of course, number one, make sure to smash that thumbs up. Number two, consider subscribing. And then, as I mentioned, if you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. That said, and as always, we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care for now, everybody. Cheers.